You are still watching Politics Uncensored, and today we are discussing the federal government versus the labor union, and we're asking who's to blame for the strike deadlock. If you've been following the news lately, you think Nigeria has turned into a country on permanent pause. Doctors have downed tools, teachers have locked classrooms, aviation workers have grounded flights. Even the electricity sector has threatened to switch off the lights. From hospitals to airports, government offices to schools, it feels like every week another union is on strike. And the common thread is the same: promises made, promises broken. The federal government says it's doing its best in tough economic times. The labor union says they have had enough of excuses. And once again, we find ourselves here, a nationwide deadlock where both sides are digging in and everyday Nigerians are the one caught in the crossfire. So here's my question, and we're asking today: is this a failure of leadership, a failure of negotiation, or both? And when the dust settles, who should take responsibility for the paralysis gripping the country, the government or the union? Of course, we still have Comrade Mark Adebayo, who has so graciously joined us today. So thank you for staying there, Comrade Adebayo. Let me ask straight: what is the problem with our deadlock strikes, and why do we have this strike over and over again?
The history of industrial relations in this government, in this country, from independence to date, has always been an atrocious one. Historically speaking, government has never been sincere with labor, because what we have in this country, successive governments, whether military or civilian, Nigeria is a victim of roguish leadership. Where you combine that with incompetency in government, and you combine that with a high level of corruption and lack of patriotism, lack of commitment to the development of Nigeria, you see that government has never been sincere. Let me give one example. Since 2009, the federal government entered into an agreement with ASU, Academic Staff Union of Nigerian Universities. Till today, none of those agreements have been implemented by this government. And to date, they have not implemented the agreement they entered into 12 months ago. For the past 12 months, they have not paid ASU workers what was agreed. You understand? A professor in Nigeria today, senior professor, in Nigeria today, collects less than $500,000 naira monthly. These are the people that form the brain of the people that will develop the country in the area of medicine, in the area of engineering, in the area of aviation, in the area of law, in many areas, in the area of political economy, political anthropology, and the rest of that. These are the people who are in the laboratory of human formulation and human capacity and human efficiency, but they are the poorest paid in this country. So a professor earning less than 500,000 naira in an atrocious economic environment like this, that the ruling clique, because we don't have a ruling class in Nigeria. What we have are ruling cliques who are making this country dry, who don't care a hoot about what happens to the children of the regular Nigerians, who don't care about what happens to our security, who don't care what happens to our welfare. They run a system of cronyism, a system of cronyism to benefit my family and friends alone, and any other person can go to hell. That is it is the attitude of Nigerian leadership that is creating the atrocious labor relations that we have in the country. They will enter into agreement with these people, they will cajole them to suspend their strike or to call off the strike. But go and check. 2 years after, the status quo ante remains. The status quo of negativism remains. They don't care. Like late Michael Jackson sang, they don't really care about us. All they care is about themselves. That is why they don't care. They don't take care of our health institutions. Now, let me remind you, in the 50s and the 60s and early 70s, the royal family of Saudi Arabia used to come to Nigeria for their medicals at the University College Hospital Ibadan. At the University College, we were so good then. The Nigerian doctors, that is why the Nigerian doctors excel all over the world. But at home here, they mess them up. They treat them anyhow. But anywhere you go in the world today, you see Nigerian doctors excelling, performing very well. But here they are frustrated. Our lecturers are abroad, are excelling. They are doing very well. In every area of human endeavor, Nigerians, once they leave the shores of this country, They go there and perform very well. But here in Nigeria has become a nation that destroys its talent because of the kind of roguish leaders that we have always been having in power. That is the problem we have. The government, now, you cannot blame the labor unions, because when you see a senator doing what? Collecting almost 30 million naira as salary or allowance in a month. And if you add that to his sitting allowance, hazard allowance, all manner of allowance, travel allowance, wardrobe allowance, newspaper allowances. People are collecting 14 million naira for newspaper allowances. And then a lecturer who will labor, who will take 5 classes. Some of the classes are big classes, where you have about 500 students. Then you will take that, and all those papers, they will sit for exam. So they will write, they will go to tutorial. So he will mark all these things manually, record them manually, submit the results, calculate the results, and then this person will work day and night. At the end of the month, a graduate assistant, I don't even know how much those ones collect now, but senior lecturers are collecting less than maybe about 250,000. Associate professor collecting about 350,000 naira. A full-fledged professor collecting about 450,000 naira. To do what in this country? The minimum wage is about 75,000 naira that cannot fill the tank of a car. They ran the country, the people, into poverty, hunger, and anger. For the first time in the history of this country, as bad as past leaders have been, for the first time we had a president that came into power that in less than within 1 hour of his being sworn into office, he removed precipitately removed the fuel subsidy illegally and unconstitutionally, because the 2023 subsidy had been paid up to June, but it took a whole chunk of the whole of how many billions, of about 200 billions or something dollars, and he refused to implement that budget that he inherited from his immediate predecessor. So, but he said subsidy is gone. With subsidy gone, our welfare was gone, our peace was gone, feeding was gone, security was gone. And that is what we have been battling with in the last 2 years plus now. So, salaries are going down, but our politicians are getting fatter, increasing their own allowances and emoluments and takeaways and take homes. So, that's what we have been having. That is why labor unions will go and demand for a fair pay. A fair pay. They will promise them that they will pay them, but they will not do so. So we have a government that runs a deceptive system that is injurious to the economic welfare of Nigerians, whether they are employed in the formal sector or in the informal sector. So the labor unions have no choice than to continue to press for better wages, for better pay for them, for their work. Their work must be commensurate, their pay must be commensurate to the sacrifices they make for the development of this country. But politicians, you see an ordinary local government councillor building a mansion. What is its contribution to the development of this country, especially to the economic development of this country, to an indigenous technological takeoff of this country? What is its contribution? Now, Turkey, we are on the same, in terms of nationhood, we are supposed to be the same intermediate. We are not first nation, second nation, intermediate nation status. But go to Turkey today. Our people are running there for medical tourism. Our people are running there for education. We are going there for business, because it has an environment that is far more developed and better than us. Turkey can compete with any nation in Europe. Can compete with any nation in Europe. So, but where are we today? What are our politicians doing? What they do? Look, 2 years to the next election, they are already campaigning, breaking the laws, breaking the electoral act, breaking the constitution with impunity. And that is why we are advocating. Remove immunity clause from the constitution so that the president, vice president, governor, and deputy governors can face the law. By now, the president should be somebody that is in court that they are prosecuting, because it's last year. His big boss are all over the place in this Abuja. His big boss are all over the place in Asaba. His big boss are all over the place in Jos, campaigning for 2027, when he has not even, he just barely half of his second term. That is the kind of thing. That is why they don't pay attention to the welfare of workers. That's why they don't pay attention to the welfare of citizens. That's why they have neglected security, economic welfare, and even education and health in this country. It's quite unfortunate. But Nigerians will not keep quiet. We will find a new direction for this country and ensure that the leader, you see, one day, monkey go market, you know, go come back. One day, the jungle go mature. And Nigerians will insist on responsible, accountable, capable, and efficient and patriotic leadership that is incorruptible.
Yeah, you've raised very valid points, Comrade Mark, and I can say that I align with some of the points that you have made. Why I might have different views to some others, but what you have said sounds very fair in theory. But Nigerians are still asking, and they want to know, why does every negotiation between the labor and the government end in a breakdown? What's exactly that missing ingredient that we never find? I remember very well you spoke even about the wages, where we had a back and forth for months with we deserve 600,000, they reduced it to so thousand. And up till date, we still have issues with certain states paying the minimum wage that they have eventually agreed to. So what exactly is the missing conversation there between the government and the labor, and why does it continue to end in a breakdown? If you could answer that for me. And just looking towards the other statements that you have made, let's be honest, even when the government meets part of labor's demand, many times you hear warning strike, or you say they have started strike, and under 24 hours, they have called off the strike again. But many lives and properties could have been lost in that space and time. But we've still seen that even after the government meets some of the labor demands, we still see strikes continue. So is labor also guilty of shifting the goalposts, even if it was to shift that blame game to them a little bit? Are they also guilty of shifting the blame, the goalpost, or we are just where we are just because it's the federal government?
Well, in Wale Adebayo's book, called Major Wale Adebayo's book, Why We Struck, I think written in 1983 or 1985, you know, he said there is no value to a promise obtained from an enemy. There is no value to any promise obtained from an enemy, because the government, the Nigerian government, has always been behaving as if they are enemies of the people. They are never sincere. When you are dealing with an insincere group of people, you can never depend on anything they tell you. Anything they tell you, because they contest election by deception, they run election by deception, they win elections by deception. So you cannot expect people who have insincerely gotten into power to now sincerely and fairly negotiate with people who are working for the country. So that is just the simple truth about it. The labor unions are not in the position to shift any goalposts. They are not in position to do that. It is the people in power who will enter into an agreement with them and refuse to implement those agreements. I was a student, and I was a student union leader. When, in fact, my school, the school I went to, now Obafemi Awolowo University in Ile-Ife, was more notorious for strikes. A course of 4 years, go there for 7 years or so. I think I was lucky to escape with my 4 years. I escaped with like 5 years, not up to 6 years. So the only language that these people in power understand is when you tackle them, either with strikes or mass protests. That is when they will listen. That is why when they will even pay attention to you. They don't really care. Now, the same government that is saying they don't have money to pay workers, they don't have money to do, but the government can come in the day of removing subsidy. The following week, he went and bought $150 million US worth of aircraft. Despite that, Nigeria has presidential, fleet of about 5 or 6 or 7 jets in the presidential fleet. The government came in, went and bought. One single car was bought for 1.2 billion naira for the president to use within this Abuja. He's not taking it anywhere out. On the day of parade, he will go to Eagle Square with it. When he's traveling, they will carry him in it and go to the airport, and then we fly. You understand? So, the ostentatious environment within which these people operate, you will know that they are in a different world. They are ruling Nigeria, but they are far removed from this country. And that's why there are properties in Dubai, there are properties in Hong Kong, there are properties in America, UK, and Canada, and France, all over the place. And because they have ruined the medical system in Nigeria. Every time they flee abroad. London, France, India, China, Turkey. I think there's a news flash now that even that the president has been hospitalized in London because they have destroyed the fabrics of development in the country. They have no trust in the institutions over which they preside. They cannot submit themselves to the medical system that they themselves
have created,
brought about, that they supervise, that they preside over.
Yes.
So their children are not being educated here. The House of Representatives is taking a bold decision to say they want to, sponsor a bill that anybody in government cannot send your children outside. You cannot go and take medical treatment abroad. If they are able, but I know this president will not sign that kind of bill into law. If they are able to get it to be signed, well, maybe they'll be serious, because if they are, look at the other day. No, I don't want to go there. But we know a governor in this country that took his son to primary school when he was governor of that state. And could the child remain there for 1 week? And the child will go there, and then you see 100 policemen to escort a 5-year-old boy to school. And you say you want to demonstrate that, your schools are working. You now sent your little boy to the school. But within 1 week, when there was a threat that they might kidnap the boy, he withdrew the boy. And the mother of the boy was shouting, "Why will you use my son to experiment? This is your crazy idea." You can see the insincerity. This is the kind of people you sit at the round table with and negotiate and believe that they are going to implement what they have agreed to implement. They will say there's no money, but they have enough money when their children want to do wedding. You see how they kind of ostentation. Even Buhari, that the claim was living a Spartan life. The man didn't like money. When his son was doing wedding, you saw what happened. How they are throwing dollars, and we are using leg to pack dollars aside for a president who was not ostentatious, who didn't like money. Like one former governor would say that he doesn't like money. So look at what happened.
I don't think there's anyone who doesn't like money.
No money. But they will lie to you that they don't like money. These are part government is not so rich. During election, they will go and bring out billions of dollars to rig election, to buy voters. That is why we are very soon, both you people and Nembo will be in the forefront of leading a campaign against vote buying in 2027. That project is coming very soon. The Nigerians ourselves must stop mortgaging our future by collecting 5,000 naira, 10,000 naira to go and vote for people that will destroy the future of your children and grandchildren.
5,000, 10,000 is even expensive. I remember very well that in 2019, we saw quite a number of videos of 200 naira, 500 naira being paid in exchange for 4 years of certain individuals' lives. And that's very sad. And I also wanted to say that they say generally that Nigerians prefer lies over the truth, but I wouldn't say that I completely agree with that. Many times we have seen lies being split into many dimensions, where at the end of the day, we are at the receiving end of it all. And when you mentioned the medical thing, I think the medical thing is something that is very personal to me. I run an NGO where, as much as possible, I try to reach out to areas where there is no health centers or where they don't have accessibility to medical aids. But every single time we see elections over and over in those areas, and I even remember very well, particularly in Makoko, I interviewed somebody and they mentioned that during election period, they come to pick all their PVCs, go and use them to vote and return it back to them with the promise that they will still have their homes intact and the government will not come and take their homes from them. And I look at it that, of course, if someone told me that my home will be taken away from me by just a card, and I rather would give that card out than, put myself at the risk of losing my home. But it's just a brain, they have brainwashed them into thinking that they are always going to be at risk. And I agree with you that we need to start tackling this kind of issues, vote buying, the idea that our medicals should be taken outside the country. I told a colleague of mine that it's all right when things might look maybe over the capability of your medical system, but basic things should always be treated here. We shouldn't have to go abroad to do kidney transplant when there's so many resources teaching people how to do this. We have the best kind of doctors who from here would look like junior doctors, but by the time they go abroad, they are top doctors. They start to take the headlines and all of that stuff. So I believe that we need to start tackling medical aid being taken abroad, especially by the elite class, and where it's not accessible to ordinary Nigerians. We also have to tackle the issue of vote buying, which I hope that your organization is starting to advocate for into, the next election. Of course, let's quickly take a breather, and then when we come back, we'll go into this conversation deeper for you guys. So please stay tuned. We'll be right back shortly.
Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light from my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we'll bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria's energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we'll analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business.
Welcome back to the show. This is still Politics Uncensored, and we are talking about the federal government and the labor unions. And so far, so good. Comrade Mark has been on the side of the labor union. So our comments are reading and buzzing. So I'm going to take a few comments. We have Lydia Olorunfemi saying very highly intelligent. And we also have Ajayi Olabode saying our national system is completely collapsed. And I don't know how we would address this. And I'm sure that's why we also have Comrade Mark to have this conversation with us. But Comrade Mark mentioned something very key, and he spoke about how strikes and protests are the constitutional rights of Nigerians. And this has been a major tactics of the labor. And it has happened over and over again. And just recently, we had doctors go on strike. And all of a sudden, we had the nurses also join them in the strike. And I remember there was someone at my house who was supposed to go for antenatal that day. By the time she got to the hospital, they told her that they are on strike, so she has to go back home and probably come back the following week, which in the case of emergency, I wonder what would have happened. So this brings me to ask this question. At what point does shutting down the country actually cross the line into holding Nigerians hostage? Because I'm sure that sending her back home would not make the government change their mind, or would not get that particular voice into the government ear. So at what point do we think that we start to cross the line into holding Nigerians hostage just because we're going on strike to demand for our rights?
When workers go on strike, especially medical personnel, it's a case of two elephants fighting. It is the grass that suffers. It is Nigerian people that suffer. It is the masses who suffer. It is the regular Nigerian, like you and I, that will suffer the consequences. People who have lost their parents due to doctor strike, people who have lost their wives, people who have lost their children due to doctor strike. Anybody who has fallen victim of that terrible situation will never want to agree. There must be a system, for me, there must be a system where biomedical personnel probably will not. But unfortunately, we have a system that is a systemic rot that is not making anything work. Otherwise, doctors' salaries and allowances should be on the first line charge, so that they don't need to join to join strikes at all because it's human life. A strike of 1 hour can cost 100 lives if doctors. You know, when medical doctors, when medical personnel generally, whether they are doctors, they are nurses, or any all other support medical staff, go on strike. It's like a pilot going on strike mid-flight. You are already mid-flight, 30,000 above sea level. And the pilot says, hey, they have declared strike, I'm striking too. And he leaves the control. And what happens? What happens?
Everything
So that is so when medical personnel go on strike, that is why even that strike is the last option that they have. It shouldn't be. They should not be participating in strikes because their own job is about human life.
Absolutely.
It's about human life, and then you cannot joke. You cannot play with human life. So medical personnel should not be among the people who are going on strike. Nigerians are always the victims of this because the government doesn't feel the pressure. They don't feel the pain. They take their children abroad. Their wives go and deliver abroad. So if they are sick, if they have headache, they go abroad. If they have stomach ulcer, they go abroad. If they are sneezing, they run to France. If they are stooling, they run to France. So they know where to run to. They don't care. So if the doctors can go on strike for 10 years if they like. You know, during the Abacha regime, during the Abacha military coup, as you went on strike, you know what happened? He sacked all the lecturers in Nigeria and gave them 24 hours to vacate the campus, to vacate even the official quarters. Abacha. He sent in soldiers into the university to send away lecturers. You saw lecturers packing their luggage and their furniture on top of their cars in those days when 504 and 505 was still trending. You understand? So that is how condescending that the people in power hold workers. You know, they hold them to unimaginable ridicule. They don't really care about them. One governor, a former governor of Ogun State, when he was a governor in Ogun State, he said when people, retirees, pensioners were advocating and protesting for backlog of unpaid allowances and pensions, that governor who was a former journalist before he became governor in Ogun State made a terrible statement that saying that we have not even paid the living people. Now the dead are asking for their rights. Imagine that. So that is how condescending. That is how low they rate Nigerian workers. And it is these same workers who are holding the country together. They are the ones who are contributing to the economy that you are looting as politicians. And you say you are referring to pensioners and retirees as dead people. That I have not even taken care of the salaries of the living. Then the dead are coming. It's already for them. You have retired. You are dead. Once you have left service, you are dead. That is how unimaginably, porous the sensibilities of the people who misrule this country can be. So they don't really. The biggest issue, Nigeria has never had economic problem, security problem, social problem, or any other problem. Leadership problem. It is leadership malaise that has been a contributing factor to the retrogression and underdevelopment of this country.
Yes.
So that is one factor. You fix Nigeria's leadership, you have fixed everything in one fell swoop.
I hope that would be our future endeavor to actually fix the leadership of Nigeria. And
it is not our future endeavor. It is not our future endeavor. It is our emergency and immediate endeavor.
I absolutely agree with you. I absolutely agree with you, Comrade Mark. I'm calling out particularly to the people who are watching this now, who are wondering what else they can do to help Nigeria. So I hope they take it up as an endeavor to fix the leadership problem of Nigeria. I remember a very close boss of mine mentioned that we need to wipe away all of the people who are in the current government and even in the past government and try and reintroduce new people. My only issue with that statement is you meet a lot of young people now and then you ask them. Now, I'm of course including myself so that the viewers don't think that I'm taking myself out of that age bracket. But you meet a lot of young people now and you ask them why they want to go into politics, why they want to go into leadership. And all you hear is, look at other people who are there now. They're making money, they're building houses, they're doing this, that. And one very key figure they use is Emefiele, who is currently in his own trouble now. But you see the kind of wealth he amassed in that position, and that's the only thought of certain young people. So I'm wondering that beyond, we talk about the federal government over and over again, but I'm now looking at the people who we call the federal government. If we start to address the leadership issues and these people go out of government, how do we start to address to make sure that our federal government is actually working for Nigerians? That's one part of the question. The second question I'm asking is, the government keeps claiming that the country can't afford labor demands right now. Especially, I remember very well when they demanded for 600,000 naira each for civilians. That's a fair pay, and even at that, does not really counter the economic challenges that we're having in Nigeria. But do you think that the government is, being fair by saying that, or do they have a fair point by saying that they can't afford labor's demand right now? Let's first remove the idea that the House of Representatives, the senators, and all of this are taking such large money for governance, which they're supposed to be serving. But at this point, it looks as if it's Nigerians that are serving the leaders. But if we take that out, do you think that they're making a fair point with saying that they can't afford labor demands, especially with our loans here and there? Or this is just another excuse masking waste and corruption?
Well, they claim they cannot afford to pay a living wage to the Nigerian worker. But they can afford to allocate billions upon billions or even trillions of naira during elections, to pay thugs, to pay everybody who is involved in the election, to even buy the votes. They have those trillions of naira to waste. But to pay the worker, it becomes an issue. The government is never broke, except when it comes to taking care of the welfare of the people. They will say, no, it's too much, they cannot take care of it. But you see, this is the governor will have like 200, 300, 500 PAs and SSAs, each of them collecting 2 million, 3 million per month. But you cannot pay a medical doctor 1 million naira per month. You cannot pay a professor 1 million, 1.5 million per month. But you have money to live ostentatious lifestyle, to build mansions, whether when you are in office or after when you are out of office, to have billions. Go to Dubai. I went to Dubai. I was taken to a particular street from end to end, both right and left. They are telling me Nigerians own all these places. The Denship for army staff, they showed me his house. Some governor, they showed me their house. They know their houses. A taxi driver drives me around. He's telling me this one belongs to this one, belongs to this one. They know them. And they know them. They have houses, they have mansions. Some of them, they live there permanently now. They live there permanently. Immediately they're out of office, they run outside to go and enjoy their loot. So that is the situation. Well, for us, about the young people, the Gen Z's generation and the rest of that, of course, there's a big disappointment concerning them too, because 65 to 67% of the Nigerian population are youths under the age of 25 years of age, or at least under 30 years of age. This is a humongous demographic that they should use their power to bring in a new direction for this country. But even when you see nowadays, what they do at the announced election, you wonder, can you commit the future of this country into the hands of these people? That in the National Association of Nigerian Students election, you see that amount of thuggery, violence, even bloodshed, because of their, they call it, I think they call it SUG, Student Union Government. Now bringing cultism, thuggery, and going to, in our days, back in the day, it is your intellectual firepower that can get you a single vote from any student. Because you will debate, you will talk. Now, today they don't debate, they debate with gun, debate with violence and sheer thuggery in the schools. Absolutely. So it's a major issue. It's a major issue for me. That is why even minus those who are in government, people who can afford it. Now they send their children to private universities where cultism is not
Does
allowed.
not exist, yes.
Because as generally in the country, the government has abandoned the people to the vagaries of insecurity, of banditry and insurgency. It's the same way that our universities and higher institutions have abandoned, even secondary schools now, even primary schools now have cultists. It is that bad now. So it is you see that some students will run away from school and come back home. That
yes.
I cannot stand the kind of cultism that is going on in our school. And then the parents are helpless in a way, you know. Parents are helpless in a way, because are you going to go to school with your children? Are you going to? You don't have the power of police? Are you going to? So because these people are supposed to keep the school safe, their children are not there. If they are in the country, they are in one big private university where they pay 5 million naira per annum. When I was in the university, I paid 500 naira per session. 500 naira, not 5,000, no, not 500,000, no, not is 500 naira per session. Today, I have a daughter at that same school. I know how much I'm paying, you know. So the issue is that until we have people who have a sensibility of commitment, patriotism, and God-fearing spirit to govern this country, if it is this same group of ruling clique that continue, and that is why we have a responsibility as citizens to come together and fashion a new direction for this country. To ensure, starting from 2027, it must be able to come together. The youth demography, they must come together in a one. No, they did well in 2023 now. This obedient movement. The only error is that they succeeded in alienating a large chunk of the population by their sometimes unruly attitude, insulting everybody and bringing more or less, trying to now introduce some kind of ethnocentric element into that movement. That was what killed that movement. Otherwise, there was no better candidate to win that election than Peter Obi in 2023. But this, hopefully, somehow, if they are able to manage the obedient movement to be more of an intellectual movement, you know, than a movement that many people will now be seen as a movement of online smash hits. So I think it will be better for us, you know. Like look at 2023. The people had better choices. Look at Adebayo of the SDP. The man, in my own opinion, who had the best manifesto so far among the presidential candidates of 2023. That was the only presidential candidate. Not even Obi promised not to remove a subsidy. It was the only presidential. He was the only presidential candidate, Adebayo of the SDP, who promised not to remove the fuel subsidy, but still will solve the corruption challenges in our oil industry. But Nigerians didn't remember to vote for that one. People went and voted for 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 naira. It's quite unfortunate. And it is a deliberate policy of impoverishment. When the elections are coming, you see that the economy will become more tight.
Comrade, unfortunately, we have to go very soon, but I quickly want to ask you, and please use this as your wrapping shot for this conversation. This conversation has been very overwhelming and very eye-opening, and I hope Nigerians can start to demand, you know, for what is truly theirs beyond just online ticketing and maybe strikes and protests. I wish there's going to be other ways. But if you were in the room with both sides today, what's that one compromise that could break this deadlock without leaving Nigerians worse off, where it will not be a story of two elephants fighting and the gas suffering anymore?
I will simply look straight into the face of the federal government and tell them that start behaving like human beings, because you are presiding over human beings. Start behaving. Immediately, you will discover your sense of humanity. You will know that you treat workers and Nigerians fairly and justly. They are not treating us justly. And this country, Nigeria, is a victim of composite component of cumulative crisis. We need somebody that can lead us in a new direction to take over the reins of government in this country.
Thank you very much,
and let us start.
Thank you very much,
Let us start with 2027.
Thank you so much, Comrade Mark, for this conversation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I believe, well, at the end of the day, this strike deadlock is just more than just a disagreement over wages. It's a reflection of our broken trust in leadership and governance, just like Comrade Mark has mentioned. Nigerians are now stuck between a government that often promises more than it delivers and labor unions that sometimes fight with tactics that hurt the very people they claim to protect. But one thing is very clear: the longer both sides stay locked in this power struggle, the deeper the pain for ordinary citizens. The real victory wouldn't be in who wins the argument, but in whether Nigerians can go back to work, feed their families, and live with dignity. This is Politics Uncensored, where we don't just talk politics, we hold it accountable. Before I go, please ensure you subscribe to our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV. I'll see you again next week. Goodbye.